Hey, it's Monday, May 18. And we got our refrigerator and our range today delivered from Home Depot. And they appear to be perfectly unharmed. So for now, we're gonna put these in the house. Probably could have had them deliver them into the house, but I don't know. We had them deliver them and just leave them right here in the driveway so we could handle it. The last delivery I got here, it damaged my door jamb. It'll never be the same, so. All right, not Home Depot. That was Best Buy, the last refrigerator I bought. All right, so looks great. Can't wait to see them in the bus. All right, so we're doing some, I guess you'd call it exploratory surgery. This is my brand new Frigidaire gas range that we got from Home Depot. I don't know what the darn model number is. It doesn't say it anywhere on the thing, and I forget which model it was. It doesn't say the model on that, and it doesn't say the model on the owner's manual that's in there. Oh, wait a minute, maybe it says so right here. Can you see that? Model FFGH2422UW. For all you guys that are interested. Really, really nice for the application. So what I'm doing now, why I took it apart, well, there's two things that are detractors from this range. One is the broiler runs on electric, which is like 900 watts, I think, which is not tremendous. My batteries and inverter will be able to handle that, so that's fine. And you hardly ever use a broiler, right? Which maybe that's even better that that's electric. But the other thing is, this has got a clock. And I don't want to run the risk that this clock stops my inverter from going into standby mode. So what I want to do is add a switch like this one. This is a switch for the light inside the oven. I want to add another switch someplace. Yeah, maybe right there, or maybe over here. That I can power down this range to make sure that the inverter can go into standby mode. And I want the switch to be something that's easy to get to. I thought about putting a switch on the wall, but that kind of like added a bunch of complexity I didn't want to do. So there's plenty of room to add a switch here. Just a simple little toggle. And what I'm trying to do is figure out how do I want to go about connecting it electrically. Here's my input. So all I gotta do is put the switch in the circuit. I don't know what's with the focus on my darn phone here, but if I switch either one of these wires, the hot or the neutral, it'll just completely put the range in disconnect mode, which will work. But then I'm also having to switch the high current for the broiler. So that means that the switch is going to have to be something of rather high amperage. And also, if you notice, all this wiring is heat safe. It's like, it's not a plastic kind of covering. So if I'm going to put a switch and switch this circuit, I'm going to have to use that type of wiring for safety. What I can also do, I think the only thing I really need to do is switch this electronic module off, because everything else has its own switch. Each of these burners has a switch for the ignition to light the burner, which is always off unless you push the thing in. The oven has its own little micro switches. Hear it clicking? All right. So it's for broil. It has a switch to turn on the broiler. And the rest of the movement is just a thermostat, which the knob feels a little weird, but and I think the thermostat uses no electrical current whatsoever. It uses little capillary doodads. I don't know. I think this might be a pilot light for the oven, which that would be great if it is a pilot light ignition. That would answer a lot of questions, like what makes the oven relight. There's two switches here and a switch there, so I'm not really sure how this thing works. It looks like there's nothing electric to the oven thermostat. So let me go do a little more checking and follow these little tubes and see where they go, because it looks like I can't figure it out. I don't know what it is. It looks like they're temperature sensors, you know, but why would it have so many of them? There's one here, and then there's this copper one, and this one looks like it's an electrical wire. I don't know. I have to do some digging. There's a wiring diagram inside that I haven't opened up yet. That might answer all my questions. But yeah, the most basic thing I could do is just switch the main power input off. off. Could put a switch down here, I guess, but that'd be kind of silly. Yeah, I think the right thing to do is put a switch here. I just have to figure out what I'm going to switch. Right now, I'm really leaning towards switching just this clock mechanism. It would really be easy for me to tell, actually. I could just put an ohm meter on my positive and neutral and see if there's resistance. Well, there will be resistance because it's going to try to make a circuit through the clock. If I unplug one of these wires, if it goes to infinite resistance, that's my answer. And that would be the easiest thing to do. All right, so we've got 430 some odd milliohms connected to the plug right there. It's not touching anything else. It's close, but it ain't touching. All right, so let's see what happens if we unplug that right there. There it is, infinite resistance. So all I got to do is switch this white wire, and my inverter won't sense any load on the circuit. So I'm turning the burner valve. So that's on the light. Oops, so when it's at light, it makes the circuit. So as long as everything is off, everything's off. That's fantastic. And you know what? I've got some of this high temperature wire someplace. Yeah, fabulous. So now I just got to figure out what kind of switch I want to put and exactly where to put it, and we're golden. I just happen to have what looks to me like the perfect little switch. It's a push button on-off switch, and it's got a little red knob on it, so it kind of matches the couldn't get any luckier than that. And it's round, so it's easy to install, and it's a push-in. So all I gotta do is drill the right size hole, push this thing in there, and hook the wires up, and we're golden. And I'm gonna do this today. I might not even have to extend these wires. Looks like I'll just be able to solder those wires right onto it. Got to double check what kind of wire that is too. Oops, sorry. If it's something that can be soldered. Sometimes I use stainless steel wire on this stuff. Can't tell, but yeah, we'll figure it out. If I can't solder to it, then I'll just have to make little jumpers. And actually, maybe I'll do that. Make little short jumpers with like a spade connector on this, little leads. So that way I can have a little easier time of installing the switch. So install the switch first and then just plug the wires on. I'm not gonna have any plugs that are this tiny. That would be also pretty nice if I did. But let me think through that. All right, man, we got it. So the only thing left now is to drill a hole in the range and install this. So this wire is leftover wire from the range igniter on my range, the one that belongs in the house. I had to change the igniter on it. And this was just laying on my toolbox. I didn't throw it away yet, thank goodness. So this area of the range where the controls are right next to the timer, it doesn't get that hot, as evident that the timer housing is all plastic. So if it got really hot over there, that would melt. So this ought to be fine. This little push button on off switch. I soldered the leads onto the switch and I put some heat shrink tubing on there just to give it some extra rigidity. This wire will plug onto the timer and this wire will plug into the plug that used to go to the timer, and then I can just wrap it with a little piece of heat shrink tubing. So now we got to drill a hole. The hole size is 350.350 inches in order to sink this thing. So there is no 350,000 drill bit in this house. 375, 3/8 is the closest, but drilling thin metal like that, I don't feel comfortable. So we're going to drill that thing out to probably, I don't know, something about 13/64ths maybe at the largest. Maybe start out with a 16th inch drill bit. And then the rest of that I'm going to use a rotary file in the Dremel and just waller it out until we get the right size. And yes, if you're wondering, I just checked, well, not just checked, before I got started I checked. These terminals are narrower than the hole size. Okay, we're pretty much done. I got my hole drilled. That was a little bit of a thing. I used a 5/16 drill bit and it grabbed, so it distorted it a little bit and I had to straighten it out, but I think we're okay. I put some paint in the hole and it's drying, but as you can see, the timer's on, the clock, all that. I don't know, however you set the clock, whatever. Okay, and all I gotta do is click this switch and the clock has no power. So I've got it. Love it. It's going to be a good range. And it's also got some areas where you can attach to the wall. Right here and here. This area is accessible when you pull the bottom drawer out. So if I put some kind of bracket or something, I haven't quite figured out what I want to do yet for that. But maybe what I might do is put like an L bracket on the side with the right length, and then I could screw the L bracket to the wall. But we'll figure that out soon. For now, my biggest concern is handled. I think I'll go ahead and just put this thing together. That paint, it's not going to really do much anyway, but yeah, you can see where the metal got a little bit bent right there. And when the switch is in, you can't see it. It's got a little bezel, if you will. So let's go ahead and do the install. I'm going to take the power off first so I don't fry myself. All right. And I'll be right back. There it is. Okay. I had to put a little super glue on the back there to hold the switch. It was coming out of place, kind of like this one does from the pull of the wires. I think maybe, I'll leave that alone. But that's it, baby. We got our little switch for our timer. Couldn't be happier. So I'll show you what the back looks like. This is the wire coming from the switch, and it goes right to the circuit board. And this is the wire that used to go to the circuit board. I just, underneath this heat shrink tubing, I put a terminal and just plugged in my wire into the original wire. So I didn't have to modify the original wire. And then I put the heat shrink tubing, and I didn't shrink it. It'll probably shrink itself from the heat in the environment here. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know if it gets that hot there. I doubt it. But the way the wire's bent on both sides of the heat shrink tubing, it can't move out of the way and expose the terminal. So we're all set. Another job well done. Now I can put this thing back together. Wow, okay. So I completed the natural gas to propane conversion, which on the pressure regulator back there, you got to take the cap off and flip this little plastic thing over. Then you've got to remove this front panel so you can access a screw that's behind here, and you tighten the screw down. That's to adjust the, I think that's the pilot light. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's a pilot light volume of gas. And then you got to change all the jets. There's a jet for each burner, and then you got to pull the bottom pan into the oven out. This pan down here, and you got to pull the burner loose out and move it out of the way and change the jet back there. It's quite involved. And so while I was at it, the reason why I started here is these two areas had these two pieces of concrete, very heavy pieces of concrete screwed into those to make the oven heavier in the back, or just heavier, period. Probably so the thing don't tip over so readily when you open the door. But that's just going to be in my way and make the thing heavier and harder to work with. So I removed them, and now with this area open, this is with the drawer removed. This drawer, lower drawer removed. So now I've got good, cleaner access to the gas connection and all those goodies. So I might, now that I'm looking at it, there's the gas pipe connections right there. I might put my gas valve right here where I could turn the gas valve off by pulling this drawer out. That'd be kind of slick. So yeah, so we're all ready now to do the install on this. So we're gonna take some measurements now. Actually, this is kind of a game changer that now that this is accessible by removing the drawer, so I can disconnect the pipe. Yeah, I like that. That's really cool. All right, man. Let's see what's next. Oh, that is sweet, isn't it? So here we are back underneath the range with the bottom drawer removed. And there's the on-off valve. And readily accessible for attaching the gas pipe. And we can put the electric in that area as well if we want. I was thinking I was going to put the electric right over there, the outlet right behind that spot. So what I learned recently from a gas inspector at my home is that you got to have a shutoff valve like that at every appliance, and it has to be accessible. If it's behind the range and you've got to pull the range out to get to it, that's not considered acceptable. I mean, accessible. So in my house, I had to change the gas pipe in the wall. I mean, this was just within the last couple of weeks. And the gas valve now is accessible in the cabinet that's adjacent to the range. And that is accessible and acceptable for my gas inspector guy. So it worked out great that I'm able to put this valve in an accessible place, and it's freaking perfect, man. Can't believe it. And I switched the handle around. That's normally like the direction is the short end, and that's the direction that the gas goes. What the heck? It just also prevents interference with this piece of metal right there. So that's about as good as it gets. So when we go look at the back side of this guy, all right, I'm trying to determine where I'm going to put the gas port in the wall of the bus. Hey, there's Norman. So I'm thinking I'm going to put the gas port, geez, I mean, I could put it like right here, right in the middle. Then the flexible pipe could be just a loop like that. And then the electrical outlet could be right here, or right there even. So we're going to take some measurements on this, figure what we're going to do. Also, I'm going to be attaching this to the wall, and I've pretty much made up my mind that where I'm going to do it is right here on each side. I'll put a screw through this piece of metal, which is pretty stout stuff. I mean, it's not like fabulously strong or whatever, but if I find that I'm not comfortable with the strength of this piece of metal, I can put an L bracket on the inside and screw it to the sides, and then that'll be a lot more beefy. The only thing is that there's going to be like 3 or 4 inches of space between this piece of metal and the wall. So whatever I do, I'm going to have to put a block, a piece of a 4x4 or something. I don't know exactly what. So that way when I attach this, it's not going to try to bend it. I want it to sandwich up against it flat. So that's going to hold it really, really, really well. And really what we're looking for is something to prevent this thing from tipping over. I'm not going to have to use this little bracket that they give you because of it. I mean, this is kind of rinky-dink. The range could still slide out. So this is going to keep it from sliding out of its place and keep it from tipping. All by putting in a screw there and a screw over here on this side. Very, very pleased. This range has really, really worked out wonderfully for our needs. And yes, the oven has a pilot light. It has electronic ignition to get it going, and then there's this little tiny gas pipe. I forget which one of these it is. There's a little, I'm like 99% sure one of these is a pilot light and the other one is your temperature sensor bulb. So, you know, like the old time mechanical water heaters and stoves were, as long as the pilot light is going, or the flame is going, it creates enough pressure in the temperature sensor bulb to keep the pilot light on and the gas flowing. As soon as it loses its temperature, it shuts off the gas flow on the main port, which is right there. So yeah, I can't wait to get this thing hooked up and test run it. I think it's going to be absolutely perfect for our needs. All right, so one last thing before I put this together. So I guess it's kind of fortunate in a way. I had already put the top back on when I finished converting this to have a switch for the timer. Then I realized I had to convert it for the gas to change these jets and all the other junk that had to be done. So I had to take the top off again. And I'm kind of glad I did, because when I put the top back on, the top seemed like it was gonna want to rattle against this surface right here. Also, I'm checking all these screws. I've noticed a lot of the screws on the back were not tight, which is better than stripped out anyway, right? So I just happen to have a little bit of this weather strip, which is pretty much the same as this stuff right here. And I'm gonna put a piece across this side and the other before I put the top back on, just to give it a little bit of